Hi everybody, welcome back to my Fluid Art channel. I'm going to do a Dutch pour heart. I did them a couple of years ago. So cover a base in a colour, then put a little thin bead of paint in a heart shape, a few little colours, and then blow it out with my mouth. And it can just make the most beautiful, but such a simple Dutch pour design. So all my paints are mixed to my Dutch pour consistency. So I've added floetrol and water. I'll put the recipe in the description. So really quite simple, but can look so pretty. And I've missed them. I haven't done them for such a long time. So I'm going to have another go. So let's get started. I'm using a 30cm square canvas. I'm going to do a really pale pink base, and then I've got some silver, I've got some Prussian blue, I've got a pinky purple, and I've got some bronze or copper. I think it's bronze. Yeah, I think it's bronze. So that's going to be the base colour, and then hopefully a really sort of delicate flower. Delicate heart shape. Oh, a flower's not a bad idea actually. But heart shape in these colours. Now I think that is slightly too dark, so I think I'm just going to mix that. I've got some white here, just tone it down a little bit, make it a little bit paler, because when it dries it will go darker. So if I lighten it now, it will probably darken and dry to the colour of that, which would be perfect. Right, yep, happy with that. Really pretty pale pink. So let's pour some on. So I'll just put a nice puddle in the middle, and then I'm going to blow that out with my hairdryer. So the reason I just put a puddle on and then add more, I try not to put on too much to start with, is I don't want too much waste. So if I pick this up, you can see there's hardly any drips there. I just don't want to waste the paint. It's just pointless. So I'd rather put less on and then add a little bit more to it if I haven't got enough. And also I don't need a thick layer of pink. That's quite a thin layer of pink on there now. So all I need to do now is just dab the edges. There's a few bits that are missed on the edges. So the little drips that have on the worktop now, I'm just dipping my finger into those and using those just to fill in these edge parts. So there's very little waste in this now. I now need to map out my heart. I've got a piece of cardboard and I've drawn my heart shape on it, and then I've cut it out. So I've got a symmetrical heart. What I then did was cut the very edge off the heart. So I've now got this template. It's broken unfortunately, but it doesn't really matter. Oops. I've got this template of this perfect symmetrical heart. So I'm going to place this onto my paint. It's going to lift up a little bit of paint because this isn't going to stay, but it's just going to give me the outline. So I'm just going to push that down just so it's totally flat. And now I'm going to just measure it. I want to make sure that that is right in the centre, as perfect as it can be. So I just want to measure these edges. So that is 3.4 centimetres. That is 4 centimetres. So I've got it too far over. So let's move it over this way a little bit. Right, 3.7 now. So it probably needs to come 3.8. It's virtually there. Let's just a tiny bit more. Right, and then top and bottom, let's see what this gap is. 4.5. This isn't quite so important. 4.6. It's there, it's fine. So that I now know is a perfect shape heart in the centre. Just got some little bits of dust in the centre of my canvas. So I'm going to use just tiny little push pins now, just to kind of map it out. So I'm just going to pop these into the paint. So I've got the shape of my heart. This might not make sense in a minute. Hopefully in a minute it will become obvious what I'm doing. So you might think I could just freehand pour the paint on in the heart shape. And I could, but I think I'm just a bit too much of a perfectionist, and I know that what I need is that perfect heart shape, and I'm not confident enough in my own ability of doing something freehand. Right, so you can see those push pins upside down now, but they're in the shape of the heart. So if I then pick this up, try and not knock over the push pins, and try and not drag it or lift up too much of the extra paint. Actually, that's worked well, having a rip in it, because that's come up really easily. Perfect. Oh, sorry, hit the camera. So I've pulled up a little bit of paint, but that's fine because I've got some spare. So I'm just going to put a little bit extra on where I've pulled it up. Great. So I've got my shape. So now I've got my guide, so I can now put the paint on within that, and I know I've still got roughly my perfect shape. So let's start with the blue. Now I've got to be steady here. Do you know, it might be better because it's quite a small canvas. I'm going to put some of this blue in a pot and use a stir stick just to drip it onto the canvas. Right, I've got my heart there, so let's just remove these pins. And I'm just using these pins because they're tiny. So again, they're not really lifting up much of this paint. So I have now roughly transferred my heart shape onto my canvas. So happy with that. Right, now just going to drizzle these other colours on. I'm probably going to, do them in slightly wiggly lines. This can be a bit rough. It doesn't have to be perfect at all. And actually, the rougher it is, probably the more natural it will look when it's blown out. Right, I'm ready to now blow this out. So to do that, I'm going to start here and I'm going to blow in this direction, move my canvas down to this point here. Right, really, really happy with that. Love the balance of colours, love the size of it, the position of it. What I need to do now is work on the exact shape because it's just not quite perfect enough. So to do that, I'm going to get a straw and just blow around. So it's still going to be a bit choppy, but it's going to be much better defined. And I'm just going to work on the shape, make sure it's absolutely perfect. Are absolutely over the moon. I loved doing these types of pours before, and I remember why. I have loved it. Look at the details They're so pretty. I ended up adding some white over the top and it's just created this beautiful lacing. There's a few cells. There's just this blend of all the colours I've used. Not one colour dominating, but a blend of all of the colours. Some cells there. Really pretty. I've tried to get a nice sharp point down here and a nice sharp point here. It's so pretty. I've spent a long time trying to get this really symmetrical. So to make sure the thickness of the ribbon of paint is the same everywhere. So I spent a long time trying to match the thickness of this bit with the thickness of this bit. It's not spot on, but as my daughter says, it's abstract. It doesn't have to, Mum. It's just the way it is. Really, really excited by this. Really happy with it. So I'll be back when it's dry. This is literally one of my new favourite paintings, and it's because it's so simple, it's so soft, and it's just so delicate. The pale pink is perfect, so I'm really glad I made it a bit whiter, because as it's dried it has gone darker, and these colours are just beautiful. They're just quite classy. I haven't got any of those really bright contrasting, well, there is the contrast, but they're not quite so bright as my usual work. So it's just quite simple, quite classy, quite understated. So the opposite of me and my artwork, really. So yeah, really happy with it, really pleased. I did these colours on this little tiny canvas. I'm definitely going to be doing more hearts. Really, really enjoyed this piece. Let me know what you think. Please hit the thumbs up button if you like it. Leave any comments you want to. Great, thanks so much for watching. Bye.